Good morning and welcome back to Football League World TV. We are continuing our The Fans Voice this morning with a show dedicated to Huddersfield Town. I'm your host, Alfie Burns, and joining me is Huddersfield fan Graeme Rayner. Graeme, how are you getting on this morning?
I'm all right, mate. It's a warm one. I'm not going to lie. It's very warm. That's why I've come outside, because it's hard to know where to be cool. But I'm looking forward to having a chat with you, definitely, Alfie.
Absolutely. We've got so much to talk about Huddersfield Town, and we're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this morning. Plenty to get through, so we'll kick things off in just a second. I guess before this show is going to be looking ahead to the 2022-23 season. But given we've got you on the show, Graeme, I kind of want to reflect on the last 12 months at Huddersfield, because it was such a sort of memorable season that ended in such disappointment in the end. Just sort of share your thoughts after a period of reflection on the 21-22 season and what it was like following Huddersfield.
On and off the pitch, it was a season of kind of surprises and not really knowing what to expect, I would say. I don't think anyone could hand on heart say that they would have thought that coming into the business end of the season we'd still be in the hunt for even the playoffs, let alone automatic promotion. And you know, anyone who says that, I would have questioned their sanity this time last year if they predicted that, because we'd had a couple of seasons since relegation where we've sort of circled the plug hole really, and been looking over our shoulders at the wrong end of the table. And this time last year we were all quite underwhelmed, I think, at the transfer business. It looked like we were trying to fill the right holes in the squad, but on the cheap. We didn't spend any money at all. And I think a lot of fans like me would have thought that we should have dipped our hands in our pockets a bit more, and how wrong we were, because the players we brought in to a man did a great job. And, you know, we had a great season. Off the pitch, there was turmoil as well with the chairman as he started the season, Phil Hodgkinson. His business interests outside of football went under, and that caused lots of sort of issues off the pitch. So it's never dull being a Town fan, ever. And last season was a case in point. But to get where we got to, finish third in the table, you know, have an outside chance as we did of automatic, and get to Wembley was a phenomenal season. We couldn't get over the line. Lots of reasons about that. I'm not going to carp on about the appalling refereeing decisions on the day at Wembley. We'll move on from that. But yeah, all in all, we've got to say it was a really successful season. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the first home game against Fulham and the 5-1 defeat, and the sort of mood around the club then was absolutely horrendous. And to watch that grow over the season, you know, even from just a journalist point of view, it was sort of good to see the fans come back, and then it obviously lead into the playoffs and so much belief growing. Where do you sort of feel like last season's left Huddersfield as a club?
Well, there's been so much that's happened this summer as well that it's hard to say, because I think we were all optimistic. I don't like the phrase "we go again" because it's such a footballing cliche that doesn't really mean anything. But it was that sort of feeling of, right, we've come so close, and actually we're in a good position to have another go at it. And that's what you want. You want to be at the end of the season. You want to be still in with a chance of some success. And you know, looking at it after Wembley, after the dust had settled, looking at the teams that had come down, etc., I genuinely felt that this coming season could be a season where we really do something special. Lots has happened since then, but I still think that even now that we've still got a chance of something, if everything's got to click right, and like for every team really, there's nothing given. But I certainly think we should be looking up, not down, this season. And that's a credit to the squad, the coaching staff, Carlos Corberán, and everything he did for the club. And we'll just see what this season brings.
Let's talk about Carlos Corberán then. He left Huddersfield around 6 weeks after the playoff final defeat to Nottingham Forest. It was a really out of the blue resignation. What was your initial reaction to that, Graeme?
I didn't see it. No one saw it coming. I don't think anyone saw it coming. There was certainly there was the odd rumour that it might be a return to Leeds on the cards or something like that, but that was, to me, it looked like sort of lazy journalism and paper talk. And then when it happened, there was a real sense of disbelief, and an undercurrent sort of bubbling away of some quite strong rumours about why he's gone, that potentially questions the ambition of the the chairman or the ability to match his ambitions as a coach. And that certainly caused some unrest, let's say, among the fans. I'll go on record. This time last year, I wasn't convinced he was the right man for the job. I'd seen not a lot the previous season that made me think he was the right guy for the job. And even as late as sort of October into the season, I would have quite happily seen him replaced at the time. And then we went on a phenomenal unbeaten run of great results, and everything seemed to click into place. And from November onwards, I think we were the best team in the division, probably bar Fulham, over that time. So I'm shocked he's gone. I'm disappointed he's gone, because I felt that this could have been the season where, with another transfer window under his belt, we've got even more of his style of player in the squad. But it sounds like the strong rumours from people who are generally in the know sounds like that there were issues in terms of recruitment, in terms of missing out on relatively inexpensive transfers to clubs that we probably shouldn't be fearful of competing with in the transfer market. I'm talking particularly about the striker that went from Barnsley to Luton. Rumours are that we were outbid for him, and I think he went for something like £1.5–2 million, and we should be able to afford that with the money that we've brought in from selling Pippa and money off the wage bill, etc. So if that's all true, then it's disappointing. And Danny Scofield, I absolutely back him, but I think, again, that decision was possibly one that caused some Town fans like myself to question the ambition and the sense of direction. It's very easy to say it's continuity that we're doing it for, but it also looks like it's the cheap option. And perhaps people might have looked at managers that were out there and available and thought we could have been tempting to them to come in. Someone like Sean Dyche might seem ambitious, but he's out of a job and he's got a record of getting clubs out of the Championship. So perhaps we could have gone and looked at him or what have you. But it seemed like a decision that came out of the blue for Carlos to leave, and yet suddenly, immediately, there was no hesitation in appointing Danny Scofield, which again puts him in a hard position, I think. So it's tricky.
Just before we come on to Danny Scofield, let's just stick with Corberán. And as you say there, I think the sort of impression that I got was that he himself felt he was going to struggle to build on a third place finish given the state of the squad and everything like that in the division. Do you feel that the club should have been a little bit more ambitious to sort of fuel his belief that he could go forwards rather than sort of stagnating?
Yeah, I think, and when we talk about stuff like this, you've got to be careful. No, I don't think any Town fan wants us to go out and break the bank and sign players that are going to put us in a financially risky situation. No one says that. The people sometimes say that people are saying that, but no one's really asking for that. But I think to have another transfer window without spending money on a transfer fee, without perhaps addressing key areas of the squad, and I think most Town fans would like to see us bring in a younger striker because our striker force is ageing, and has Danny Ward got a full season in him again he's a very injury prone striker who's had injury problems all his career. Is that a realistic possibility? I don't know. So I think in terms of him being able to build on it, had he been given the resources that he asked for, I think he would have been. But I think that's where the stumbling block came. He I think probably looked at a few areas and said, we need square pegs in square holes here, and we need to, we might need to go out and spend a bit of money or pay for an expensive loan or something like that. But it's an investment, because if it gets us over the line to promotion, think about the gravy train's back again. So yeah, I think he could have done it, but I think he realised that he wasn't going to be given what he needed to be able to do it. And that's why. And then why would you go out on a low when you can go out on a high? I suppose his stock as a manager or a coach must be pretty high now. And if anyone's looking for an exciting young coach, he's put a marker down, hasn't he? So
yeah, absolutely. On to Danny Scofield then. It's obviously a succession of the coaching staff that were working under Corberán over the last 2 seasons. You sort of touched on it earlier, but we'll come back to it. Do you think it's been the right decision to sort of make an in-house appointment, or would you have liked to see someone come in from the outside?
I mean, it's a bit of a weak answer, but time will tell. And I think, ask me 10 games into the season and I might be more convinced. I think I've got nothing. He was a great player for Town. I loved watching him at Town. He was superb. And he's clearly done well did well at the coaching setup at Leeds, and then he's come back to Huddersfield. I absolutely want him to be a phenomenal success. Whether or not he's ready for that, only time will tell. I'm not convinced. It certainly wasn't the case that we didn't really get time, but I don't think any Town fan will have gone, oh, Carlos has gone, let's just give it to Danny Scofield. I don't know many Town fans that would have seen that. I think Town fans would have said, okay, all right, we haven't got long till the season starts, but let's take a couple of days to take stock and actually think what we want to do. The decision happened so quickly that I suppose you could argue that's because that was always the plan. But Carlos Corberán had a 4-year contract. He had 2 years left to go, so the plan wasn't to do it now. So is he ready? I don't know. But I absolutely wish him well. I think there isn't a Town fan or a genuine Town fan that wouldn't get behind him. But we're all potentially looking at the people who made that decision to put him in post and asking if that's the right thing. So it's going to be, come sort of Halloween bonfire night, there'll be strong opinions either way, and if we don't start well, then people might be saying, hang on a minute, have we got another gamble in the coaching area that hasn't paid off, like when we brought in, for example, Jan Siever after David Wagner went. We went for a sense of continuity there, young German coach from the similar coaching setup, and it was a disaster. So no one wants that, but everyone's worried about that happening.
We're still in the thick of the summer transfer window, but there's been, quite a lot of movement at Huddersfield. Arrivals including Will Boyle, David Kasuma, Conor Mahoney, Jack Rodoni, and Yuta Nakayama. Are you happy enough with the business so far in terms of incomings?
I think so. I mean, I think we've addressed the areas we need to most needed to address if you discount the striker position. I think that's the one missing piece. And I don't know a Town fan that wouldn't have liked to see a 24, 25-year-old striker coming. But if there isn't one available, then we're not going to do that. But yeah, I think the only other area possibly would be at right back. We've moved Pippa on. Pippa's gone to Greece, and good luck to him. Ollie Turton started last season and nobody thought he was fit for the Championship, and then he had a superb back end of the season. So happy that he'll be the first choice. Not sure that we've got options to really backfill from the youth team that are ready for right back. So we'll see what happens there. The Japanese guy Nakayama, I think he's exciting, but rumours are that he was brought in potentially to play at left back, assuming that Toffolo leaves. Will Boyle, he's come home, I suppose, but it's a step up for him. So they're all, every transfer, I suppose, at this level is a gamble. But if they're 80% as successful as last season, fantastic. And with a couple of notable exceptions, we've still retained that core of the squad. We needed to bring in a left-sided centre-half to replace Levi Colwill. We've brought in Will Boyle and Nakayama. So that does the job. Kasumu is an exciting young player. Rodoni is an exciting young player. And that's what we should be doing, bringing in those players. I'm not so sure about Mahoney. We'll see. Another gamble, but a cheap one. So I can't fault any of the transfers we've done. It's more about what we haven't done that maybe is the question. So I think it would have been nice to bring in a right back, and it would have been really nice to bring in a striker. But I think we've done good business with the business. We're
going to come on to the departures soon and the sort of pending departure of Lewis O'Brien. But just on the arrivals, Kasuma and Rodoni coming into the midfield, do you think that they've got the qualities to maybe replace what O'Brien brought?
I think Kasuma's probably seen as a long-term replacement for Jonathan Hogg, because as much as he's like Wolverine and you can never kill him, he can't go on forever. And I think that this season is the right season to try and look at how we replace him. And with Hogg and Johnny Russell, one thing we lack is pace, and he's quicker as well. Rodoni, I think, adds goals to a midfield that needed to score more last season. That was probably the only downside of our midfield. So if they both can step up a level, and it looks like they both were ready to, let's be honest, from League One, looks like they both needed that next step in their career. If they both kick on the way that they probably should, then fantastic. The one question mark I would have is what O'Brien has given us is the ability to pick the ball up on the edge of our box and carry it to the edge of their box quickly, securely, quite often taking a kick in while we have that. So it just means we'll have to adapt perhaps the way we play. I don't think either of the new guys will be carrying the ball 40 yards through a crowded midfield the way that O'Brien has done. But they'll probably bring us other things that we lacked. So it's a trade-off, but it's probably a reasonable one to make. So it'll be interesting to see how we line up, because we're not overloaded in central midfield, but we've certainly got a lot of options that might dictate the shape, and it might not necessarily be the most natural shape that Scofield would want to play. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not. I'm more worried about losing Toffolo in terms of what it leaves, the gap it leaves in the squad, than O'Brien. O'Brien's fantastic. He's been our best player for a couple of seasons, but he's probably easier to replace with similar players than Toff will be or has been.
Let's talk about Harry Toffolo then, and just explain your sort of concerns with him going. Of course, we've had the news at Football League World today that both those deals will be completed by the end of play today. So let's just talk about Toffolo and your concerns there.
Well, I've heard rumours that Toffolo's rejected the deal, and that's still pending. So we'll see what happens. But I'll presume that Forest will get it over the line. I think they come as a pair for Town anyway. They were a pair anyway. Toff and O'Brien linked up so well on the left-hand side. Quite often, not last season so much, but the season before with Josh Koroma as well, like a nice sort of triangle on the left. But Toff, from January, February last season, he was our best player. He added assists, he added goals, solid enough at the back, real character, and really connected well with the club. Really connected well with the off-the-field side of the club. Last season we had a Town fan who was really poorly, and sadly we lost him. He passed away from cancer, and he was Daz was a legend really from among Town fans, and Toff really embraced that, and he got behind that campaign for Keep Fighting Daz, which was a campaign we all got behind. So I bear him no ill will for going. I bear neither of him any ill will for going, because it's the Premier League, and every footballer in this country should want to play in the top division. It's a shame they're going to Forest after the playoffs, but that's football. But I think we'll miss him, because he was the best left back in the division, in my opinion, and we will miss those goals and assists. And what we've got to replace him is Josh Ruffles is fine, but he's not. If he was that quality, he'd have been starting. So, I feel we've had a step backwards at both fullback positions at the moment, potentially. So we'll have to see. But if they both go, and like I say, I've heard that Toff might not, then, good luck to them, wish them well.
We're just over a week away from the season starting. It's incredible really how quickly it's come around. Burnley at home, Birmingham away, Stoke at home, Norwich and Coventry away, West Brom at home and Bristol City away. That's Huddersfield's first 7 championship fixtures. How important do you think it is, Graeme, for Scofield to get a fairly fast start?
I think it's easy to say it's really important, but I think also that most pragmatic Town fans will accept there might be a period of bedding in transition. I actually think that we can get a very good start as well. They're looking at those fixtures. We've got, I think, 2 of the relegated sides in the first 7 games, and it might be a good time to play them. I don't think this is a year when you look at the relegated sides and predict that one of those will run away with the league. I don't think the Championship is going to be like it was last season, where Fulham streaked away and then Bournemouth for a long time were well up there. I actually think it's going to be really, really close. I think that Norwich can't keep yo-yoing. It's got to take its toll. Last year, they were the whipping boys massively in the Premier League, so I think it's a good time to play them. Burnley losing Sean Dyche after the era he's had there, that's got to be difficult. And obviously, they've started, the Vultures have started picking the carcass clean of decent players. Nick Pope's gone, Tarkovsky's gone, etc. So I suspect it might be a good time to play them. If we then get tonked 5-0 first game or 5-1 like we did last season, I'll eat my words. But I'd like to think we could get a good start. And if there's 21 points on the table there, if we can get 15 or 16 points out of those 7 games, I think that would be amazing. If we end up in single figures, then I'd be worried. But we've got to remember, you alluded to it earlier, Fulham at home last season, we got absolutely battered, and then we finished 3rd, and we beat Fulham at their place later in the season. So we need to not panic if it goes wrong, but we certainly need to be mindful that it's a risk at the start of the season. If you don't start well, it leaves you a ground to make up. But if there's another Championship like there was last season, where teams, look at Forest, they've gone up to the Premier League, and in September they were all but down. So it doesn't have to be time to hit the panic button and write things off, but for him, I think it will put him at his ease. If he can make his mark on the team straight away, get out there and get good results, that'll be the way to do it.
I guess that last season proves to us that it's really hard to sit here before a ball's being kicked and make predictions. Yeah. But what do you sort of see then as a successful 2022-23 for Huddersfield?
if we had retained the same squad and added to it, if we hadn't lost potentially two of our kind of prized assets, I would be saying we should be having a go at definitely playoffs, if not automatic. Having pretty much definitely lost O'Brien, not replaced Colwill with a player of the quality, because, by the way, Levi Colwill will play for England in the next couple of years, I think. And potentially losing Toff, which is still in the balance, but may well lose him. Anything in the top half of the table and fighting for the playoffs, I think, is the minimum we should be aiming for. So we'll see. I don't think we'll be in big trouble. I can't see it with the group of players that we've retained, because we've got battlers. Lee Nichols was the best keeper in the division last year. Keeping him is as important as anything. We've got Tom Lees, we've got Matty Pearson, we've got Jonathan Hogg, we've got players that like a fight and a battle. So we're not going to get bullied by anyone. Upper mid-table playoffs, I'll take at the moment. But again, ask me again in sort of October, and we'll see where we are. I just hope, as long as we have a good season where we actually enjoy the football, and that's what we're talking about, stuff on the pitch, I'll take that.
Right, that concludes this morning's look at Huddersfield Town. Thanks to anybody that's joined us, and thanks for coming on the show, Graeme. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Coming up later today, we're going to be taking a look at Coventry City as the fans' voice continues, and that's going to be a theme right through the week. So make sure you tune in for that, and we'll see you again soon.